You're watching YLN TV.
Hello everybody, I'm Carl Alfred and you're watching YLN TV. Today you get to meet another side of me. Welcome, Pastor Carl Alfred, and I'll be speaking to you today from the pulpit of the Church of the Painful Truth. Today is a new day in our journey in this adventure called America. We have a bunch of researchers, and we have a bunch of analysts, and we have some activists. The researchers are coming through with all kinds of glorious finds that indicate truths that we really didn't want to know, suspected but didn't want to know. They're being confirmed in all levels of government by people who actually think the way we do. Honest, fair, and the American way of life. But curiously, everybody's coming to the same point. And the same point is what people like me will be acting upon. Because you see, I'm part of the action committee. What they have found that is of paramount importance, I think the most important stuff that we have to deal with is that basically the government that you think you have, it's a lie, a bold-faced lie, a calculated, conniving, evil lie. It's worse than we ever imagined. We've been taken advantage of, conservatively speaking, for 143 years right now. It goes back a little further, but not too much. The players involved in these dastardly deeds, I can tell you, on one hand, it's the Crown. On the other hand, it is, believe it or not, the Vatican. And then their surrogates. And who are their surrogates? The attorneys and the lawyers. You see, as it turns out, Shakespeare had it right after all. Really did. And it's time that the piper begins to get paid. So, without any further ado, let me bring on the information that you're going to need so that you can form your own opinion. It starts with, let's start in 1871, because that's when the 14th Amendment was passed, or so they tell you. As it turns out, it wasn't passed at all. And to talk to people in government and in the legal profession, they'll say, oh, of course it was. Of course it was. And even if it wasn't, that's 100 years ago. We just assume it is. Well, I guess they would assume because they're basing almost all their law on it. Only problem is, that's a lie. It's duly recorded. I can cite you all kinds of sources, but I'll cite you one that is probably the most authoritative on this, and it's no less than the joint House resolution coming from Georgia in 1957. Passed on the Senate, I believe it was February 8th, and in the House on February 13th. What that resolution says is that at the point of a bayonet, the senators and congressmen from 9 southern states were ushered out, not allowed to be seated in Congress. Instead, what happened is, via martial law, call it what you want, law of necessity, they use all kinds of different terms. The military set up a puppet replacement government. I mean, really wiped them all out and just brought in some of their players, some of their boys. That was the ticket. And they seated them and had all of their nice votes. Only problem is, none of it was lawful, none of it was legal. It was a sham upon America. It was a sham upon everything that is holy in this world. And when caught in that lie, they'll say, oh, well, it was actually signed in via executive order. We didn't tell you that one, did we? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll say that. The Congressional Research Service, I believe it was, let me see here, November 26, 2008, on CRS-2, page 5. It says that the 14th Amendment was ratified by executive order. Unfortunately, our researchers are hard at work. And what they uncovered is President Johnson, he didn't want to have anything to do with the 14th Amendment. He was telling everybody, hey, forget that. That creates a de facto government. De facto. A government that rules by military force. Starting to ring a bell? Well, there was an executive order signed. It was signed by the Secretary of State. I didn't know the Secretary of State had that power. Well, he doesn't. And the bottom line to all this is the document that we are supposed to take care of, protect, defend against enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, that document has something called the Supremacy Clause in it that prevents these kinds of shenanigans going on to alter it. 3/5 of the states have to ratify it. None of that stuff was done. It has to be a lawful vote in Congress. None of that was done. And it darn sure can't be done by executive order. I mean, how many kings do we want to have in that position of president? Even Johnson didn't want any part of that. So, it's a bit of a conundrum because all of the law that these attorneys have been so tenaciously enacting, they're pretty much based on everything that happened around the 14th Amendment. Why? Because just prior to the 14th Amendment, under the cover of the Civil War, some congressmen got together and changed the definition of a word. That word was person. Now, how do you change the definition of the word person? They did. The word person now included a corporation. So a corporation could be a person. And that's why the verbiage in the 14th Amendment makes it such that you are, in effect, converted to a corporation. You, individually. Not only that, you are now put under the jurisdiction of the U.S., the United States. And when I say the United States, that means you're not under the jurisdiction of your state anymore. Not even under your own jurisdiction. No, sir. They own you. So, here we go. Everything starts getting a little bit more convoluted as we push forward in time. But all the while, the players, I will call them players. What else can you call them? Well, I'm sure you'll have your own words. They keep this little thing secret. Yeah. They don't need to know about that. 14th Amendment's good for them. It's good. You'll see. Yeah. Well, all of this came out of the bankruptcy that the country went through in '63. And all of the turmoil that happened between '63 and '71, well, that's what they call the Reconstruction Phase. And yeah, they didn't settle the debts. No. When you owe somebody, you owe somebody. So what they did is rolled it over into new debt. And now everybody owes the debt. according to them. Unfortunately for them, they're basing that on a lie. And I'm pretty sure that the rest of the country will agree with me in that if you're basing it on a lie, and you got the debt and you're saying it's our debt, well, chances are it's not, it's yours. And it is. They want to make you think that, you know, you're responsible for what they have bought and paid for. We push all the way forward. We go through World War I. We have the debt actually, the trust that was overseeing the debt. The trust was actually the Vatican. And the Vatican had a suitor that wanted to take care of the trust. The suitor just happened to be the major bankers here in the United States. You know, the J.P. Morgans and the whole 9 yards, Daddy Warbucks. They got together, put all their money together, and they bought the trust. So now, everybody owed them. And that's when the corporation called the Federal Reserve came in. Federal Reserve was never a U.S.-owned corporation, was never part of the U.S. government. Though many people thought it was, because here they are up on Capitol Hill all the time talking to our senators and congressmen. How about that? No, they were a separate corporation. And so was, at that time, the United States, a separate corporation. And by that time, they had perfected their means of collateralizing the debt by taking what's called the fiction of you. What is the fiction? The fiction is that character that they put on your license tag, your license when you go get that, when your birth certificate. It's that name you see that's in all capital letters that they, of course, will deny. All caps. That's indicative of a corporation. Yeah, you were a corporation. And unless you have officially withdrawn from that, you still are. Which means anybody, and I mean anybody, who carries around documentation provided by the government that indicates anything close to the all capital letters like that, you are right now and have been, as long as you've had that documentation, a slave. Do you hear me? You think that they freed slaves back then? No. Created more. Chattel. You're to be sold, bought and sold. And you are. Right now. And they've got you so dumbed down that you don't even realize it. Okay. Well, again, the interesting thing is all of these researchers out there, and even some people in government, why they're coming to the same conclusion, saying, yeah, you guys were right. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Enter the activists. Because that's what this is all about. We've got to come up with the plan to do something. And they're developing right now. First plan is to get in their face. Let them know now that we know and the gig is up. Yes, sir. The local level is where you want to start. If you get a chance to talk to your state reps or even your congressman, go for it. But realistically, let's start at the local level. This activist is taking his collar off and he's going to get active. And that's what's going to happen this week. So I'm going to suggest that you consider the action of getting in front of your councils, wherever they may be, your commissions, wherever they may be, and demand resolution. Don't ask. Demand. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your friends. Get them together. Go en masse. But demand that those city attorneys, those county attorneys, they're out of here. And if they don't get out of here, we are going to have to escort them out of here. They have been perpetrators of fraud on us long enough. And it matters not whether they plead ignorance or not. Can't do that. They know what the fiction is. They know what the real person is. And the judges especially know this. So, you see, what I'm going to have to do, and what I suggest you do if you want to get cracking on taking this country back, is to make sure that you talk to your representatives. You can even give them fair warning that this is going to occur. That'd be the neighborly thing to do, because in all likelihood, your city councilman and some of the, if not all of the county commissioners, parish leaders, you name it, all of the people at the lower end of the political spectrum are probably just as ignorant to what I'm telling you right now as we are. Were. So it's up to you to bring them up to speed. It's up to you to walk up to them just like in the movie Matrix and have a blue pill in one hand and a red in the other. Stay where you're at. Take this one. Suffer the consequences. Take the red pill, come with me, and let's get this done. Those of you out there who are seeing this that are part of the militias, you've been scattered. You're taken advantage of. You need to come back, form, and organize. And I mean organize. And you need to put all the petty differences that you've got behind you. Your neighbor from the next state, he may not like you. Who cares? We've got a bigger, badder animal that we're going to have to deal with. Yeah, I know. We've got the issue at the southern border. Well, you see, they've already been paying attention. When I say they, the players in all this, they've been paying attention. And the reason they've been able to keep you off your game or off the track is because you have been so busy discussing all of the various crises that they have created. Folks, can you think of a day, of a time where there wasn't a crisis and there was calm, peace, where you could sit and think? Yeah. If there isn't one, they create one. For a reason. They don't want you to see behind the curtain. People have said that movie Alice in Wonderland, well, that has to do with the banking. You're full of it. Oh yeah, it has to do with the banking. And looking behind the curtain is actually seeing the truth. Really? Okay. I got to go in and watch Saturday Night Live. Yeah, I don't believe you. Well, guess what? They were right. They were right. Some of the movies put out there curiously mirror exactly what we're looking at here. And they are telling you exactly what you're going to be facing. Keeping that in mind, you can expect an assault on you, on us. It's probably already underway. I believe it is. The open declaration of war, which is what opening the southern borders up by the actions of a president is, that is war on you and me. Can you not see that? Oh, you can't? Okay. Well, maybe you just have to have a little bit more knives, a few more knives stuck into you. You have to have a little bit more prodding, you know. I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. The prodding's coming. Have you heard about all of those children that are being brought into the country? Those poor children? We've got to save the children. There's just a mass of them, a wave of them, and we've got to save the children. Lying sacks of shit. 10% of those are children. The rest of them are young adults from 14 to 18 or whatever you consider a young adult now. I guess in their books, a child is anybody less than 24. Huh. Folks, what they're bringing is disaster of unimaginable proportions, and you're allowing it to happen. They're bringing them to your community. And they're being allowed to do so by those who are looking for the almighty dollar. Charities that the government is more than happy to come in and subsidize like never before. Oh yeah. Yeah, I just heard I heard from a person down in Valdosta, Georgia, a couple of days ago that word had come down that a charitable organization down there was going to be taking some of them in. Now, you might think that's cold and heartless on my part. Okay. Well, is death cold and heartless? Is it? Pretty much is. And the speculation, not without reason, is that along with these children is a gift that keeps on giving. It's a dirty word to some, music to the ears of the evil. All right, boys and girls, let's say this all together. Pandemic. Right? One more time. Pandemic. That's what you're being set up for. Because you do not know where all of these children are going. But if this was on the up and up in any way, shape, or form, this scenario that I'm going to tell you wouldn't have occurred. Saw a picture, it was given to me, that had to do with a bunch of military vehicles at a hospital, parked at a hospital in Oak Forest, Illinois. And the person taking the pictures was curious and didn't know what it was and was asking if somebody could find out. Well, I thought it was curious too. I wasn't alone. Apparently others did as well. So calls were made. Now, folks, the person who answered the phone, how do I say this? It didn't sound quite like a hospital employee, but she answered the phone, and I asked if there was anybody I could talk to about these vehicles that were parked out there. She said, let me hook you over to the security people. Okay, don't know what that has to do with anything, but she did. I asked the question, and the gentleman on the other end, who didn't give me his name, said, I'm not at liberty to say. All right, game on. Now, I've already relayed this story a couple of times in other videos, but the bottom line is that they went in there and they told the surrounding businesses, maybe even surrounding houses, that whatever was going on was top secret or secret of some sort. Yeah. Unfortunately for them, we had, meaning people that I know, had boots on the ground there. And the boots on the ground were telling us that, yeah, absolutely they're there. And oh, by the way, at least one bus was seen leaving the facility. That bus had no markings on it. That bus had heavily tinted windows. Now, I'm a little sick and tired of the calling out the obvious. This Mr. Transparent piece of crap that you call a POTUS, you were warned about him. You were warned about him from the beginning. I was one, and there were hundreds of others. And it had absolutely nothing to do with the color of that man's skin. It had everything to do with the secretive nature of his origins that are still secret. And still people are not curious. It doesn't matter at this point. He told you he was going to fundamentally change this country, and by God he has, hasn't he? He's the Prince of Destruction. Truly is. But again, it was more important to watch the Dancing with the Stars, survival, go to the movies, be distracted. It was more important to do that. I'm not going to go there. Hindsight is perfect. Look, time to act. Get in front of your council members. Get in front of your commissioners. Demand. No ask. Demand that they shut down the court system. The court system is the root cause because they have facilitated this. Shut down Congress because Congress is the root cause. They are a part of this. And for the love of God, arrest the major players. Yeah, the president, vice president. I would even go so far as to say every senator. There is not one whose hands are not dirty. And if you tell me that your life was threatened, well, you're telling me what kind of character you have, because you're telling me that your life was worth more than the lives of 300 million people out here that call themselves Americans. So I don't have any sympathy at all. And folks, you shouldn't either. The legions of attorneys out there who have done nothing but milk this country dry should be banished and deported. To that end, I mentioned that the Vatican was kind of responsible for some of this. Well, they were. Why? Because they, in league with the Crown, commissioned, well, just call it pirates if you will, to come over here and repatriate that which left the Crown, the people that left the Crown. The Crown wanted the vessels, the gatherings, the property of his possessions, you and me, of course, wanted it returned. So the Vatican, in league with him, created this league of people, and they were chartered by the bar over there in London. That's right, B-A-R. You've heard that term before. American Bar. Mm-hmm. Same group. They were sent here to collect the booty. Now, don't laugh. If it's on the sea and they salvage property, it's called bounty, and on the land it's called booty. But they were sent over here to get it. And get it they did. Every bit of gold was lifted from this country in it was either 30 or 33, and during that bankruptcy. Every bit of gold. And then they created this wonderful system of fiat, really fiat system, and all kinds of agencies and different bureaus and more agencies and bureaus. They empowered them. How many can you think of? There is just so many of them out there. And do you remember the Declaration of Independence? The part where they were complaining about all of these people coming over here to eke out their sustenance? The current crop, they're doing it on steroids. Unbelievable. Stealing everything that they can get their hands on. You, me, our property, the land, you name it. They claim it. And they claim it how? Legally. Legally. Not lawfully. Legally. Who are the legal eagles? Oh yeah, that's your buddies, the attorneys. Gig is up. You better watch out, folks, because I may be saying it today, but there's going to be 100 saying it tomorrow, and there's going to be 1,000 saying it the day after that, and so on and so forth. So I don't know about you, but seeing as you are party to the biggest fraud that this planet has ever seen, you may want to think about relocating before you are relocated. Police, sheriffs, you do not belong to the courts. No, you don't. You're employees of the people. Remember that concept? You better, because you will be out on your ears real quick if not. Unfortunately, some will have to go. The good ones we're going to keep because we need to have good law enforcement, and there are a whole host of good ones out there. So to you gentlemen, thank you for what you've done, but we're going to need you some more. And you gentlemen also know who the bad apples are. So it's going to be time to clean house across the board, and we got to start somewhere. It's going to start this week. Now the only question is, when are they going to release news of the next crises? Because the next crisis, of course, is going to be designed to be so devastatingly important that you're not going to remember what you just heard. Okay? That's the game. You think you can stay awake long enough? We're going to find out. Because it's not a game to me. Not a game to all the researchers, and it's not a game to everybody else who has seen their property disappear, jobs gone, everything that they knew destroyed. And lest I forget, you guys really thought I would forget about you, didn't you? Folks, when the bankers created the Federal Reserve and when they bought the trust from the Vatican, one of the first things they did is gather up some of the important people in the media and determine which were the key ones to purchase if they wanted to take control of distributing information. Well, they were given the answer, and they did. Oh, yeah, they did. So, what you once thought was just a serious leaning to the left on the part of the media is substantially worse than that. They are an arm of this criminal enterprise. That's right. They may have a slightly easier time of blending back into society, but it's going to be tough regardless because a lot of them are known. And you will know who they are. You know who your leftist friends are. And if they do not come clean, come forward and beg forgiveness. It won't be forthcoming. The evil that has been done to this country is beyond anything that I personally could ever have imagined. I don't know about you. What do you think? Am I even on the right side of this one? Yeah. That guy. We've seen all kinds of pictures along this line. They're not a joke. This is real time. That's why I left it up there. That's what he thinks of you. That's what he thinks of the documents that we have held in reverence all of our lives. Well, he is going to be in for a rude awakening because that particular piper is now demanding to be paid. So again, as part of the action committee, I'm saying that organize. Organize now. Those of you that are former military, you'll know better how to do this than the average rank and file citizen. So organize and do it at the local level and get ready. I do have to give you a word of caution. There are some in the local police that are going to look at those newfound toys that they've been given by the great destroyer. You know, those former military pieces of hardware that have no business in the communities. They're probably going to try and utilize those, thinking that, heck, citizens, soft targets. I can probably take care of 1,000 of them an hour myself. Gentlemen, you know what to expect. We're going to have to nip that one in the bud pretty quick. The other aspects is we're going to have to rely on the people that once they have seen this and others to follow, understand that, let's say if you work at a nuclear facility, you may want to talk to your bosses, secure everything as it should be. Be prepared just in case there's an onslaught. Any other infrastructure out there, regardless of what it is, should be on high alert for any kind of sabotage, because we are talking enemies, domestic enemies. Here, now, they've been here, and I've got to throw one more thing into the mix. You're going to love this. Have you heard reports of foreign troops or foreign enclaves? It's true. I was down in Miami about 3 months ago, and I noticed a change. I've never seen this before. I was over on South Miami Beach, and South Miami Beach has always had a distinctive, well, ever since the Cuban Missile Crisis, a distinctive Latin flavor. Not anymore. The flavor has turned Eastern European rather rapidly, and found from talking to a few people that there is an enclave, a rather large enclave of Eastern Europeans. Some say Russians, I don't know. But I will tell you that the ones that I saw, granted maybe a couple of handfuls, all looked to have one thing in common. They were all between 20 and 30, short crop hair, military build. I didn't want to think along those lines. I really didn't. It couldn't be. But this was just before Operation American Spring. And as I was heading north from that, I talked to someone in Tampa. And that person in Tampa confirmed what I was saying by telling me that there was an enclave there in Ybor City. Huh. Okay, that's two. Rather substantial. To what purpose? For what purpose? Again, to current, former military, retired, it's time to put your head on a swivel, but we've got to assess the situation and find out exactly where we stand, because I don't know what to tell you as far as who to trust in the military right now. They have been subverted for the longest time. You know that we have been converted over into a military-industrial complex. That is no surprise to anybody. But in order to do that, some had to sell their souls. How far are they willing to go? Don't know. For all we know, the key players that did it to Germany are still involved in some way today. That information is going to be coming forward too. It's developing. It's more than just suspicions. So everybody's going to have to be on high alert at the same time as we're starting to clean things up. Clean them up at your local level. Get together with your friends and neighbors and form action committees. Don't worry about right now the reopening of the courts right away. Those are going to have to shut down. Just shut down. We'll address that later. Not much later, but we will address it later. As soon as the military organizes, this local military from the states, who are now free to assume their sovereignty. Oh, and by the way, every state has had their groups within that state redeclare their sovereignty. You might want to find who those people are, because we, and I'm in Georgia, are now officially a sovereign nation. You, whichever state you're in, are likewise. We are all under attack. We are all going to have to help one another. That's right. Your state leaders, I don't know how you're going to handle yours. You know, I would imagine the Christian thing to do would be to offer some sort of amnesty or something to them. Maybe they truly didn't know. I can't imagine it, but maybe they didn't. But I'll tell you one thing. If they were attorneys and they were in public office, they have got to be gone. So that's going to require a lot of elections. Yeah. And every bit of this is an expense that is going to be extracted from those that have extracted the wealth from this country. We know who they are. We know where they are. And we're not the only ones looking for them. Some of the other countries actually woke up a little before you guys. You know that? That's right. That's right. So, hate to say it, but we've got some instant allies in this. There's a lot of gold that has been pilfered from around the world. And where it is in the hands of the IMF, International Monetary Fund. They'll be able to play around for a while, but running is not going to do them any good. the gig is up. And now the time spent researching our history, going back and seeing how it was done, when it was done, why it was done, and who did it, kicks into a different gear. So folks, that's all I have for you tonight. But I want you to pay attention to what's going on around you. There's going to be other broadcasts coming up during the week. I'm going to have another one I might do later on tonight that's a little shorter version of this. But this is it. This is the time that we've dreaded, absolutely dreaded, because our backs are against the wall. Yeah, they did that. But it's time to stand. Stand tall, stand straight, look them in the eye, say, I'm tired as hell and I'm not going to take your shit anymore. You ready? I am. Good night.